Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 412 of the Chirohustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Philip Golinsky, and if you want to know how to become the Trojan horse for chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chirohustle podcast. This is episode 412. I have Phil Golinsky here with me, coming in from, I think it's the DC area. So really excited to have him onto the show. I've been tracking this guy down for about 8 months, trying to get him to break away from building businesses to tell his chiropractic story to our audience. But before we jump into this episode, I just want to let people know our big why. Why do we do what we do? Well, Chirohustle protects freedom of speech in chiropractic. I think health freedom is so important. So that's our real anchor statement. But chiropractically speaking, our anchor statement is we protect the sacred trust. And if you guys don't know what that is, go search for BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractors. And we believe in universal intelligence and innate intelligence, and that when man or woman gets adjusted, it connects the physical to the spiritual. And with that being said, welcome to the show, Dr. Phil.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you said 25 years in the making, chiropractically. And I know we all have an origin story. We all have the genesis story of where we came from. So your friends, family, colleagues, all the people that will come into your doors are going to hear this story. So let's tell people how you got into this beautiful profession and where you are today.
By divine design. I was a music major, and in that major, you're practicing. I was a pianist. You're practicing 6 to 8 hours every single day. And one day I woke up with my neck attached to my chest, and I couldn't lift it up. And I knew that practicing every single day, because you're doing performances every 2 weeks. And if you don't know your sonatas, which is a 14-page, it's a lot of work. And my roommate, who was a drummer, said, go to my chiropractor. And I said, what a great idea. So, of course, I was open to it. I didn't know what chiropractors was, other than they fixed your neck and back pain. But I remember going there and I felt so good. And at the time, I saw people that were graduating ahead of me. They were more talented as musicians, but really were struggling in the music industry. And I said, well, I don't know if I want to be a music teacher in high school. Maybe I want to do something more than that. And I was very open to the universe. And I always felt that whatever I needed, even back in college, the universe or God will always give me the answers. And I've always been very, very driven like that. And so that day of that week, I went to the chiropractor, and I knew at that moment when I got my adjustment, I was going to be a chiropractor. I saw him working with his hands. I knew I worked with my hands. I said, I could do this. And then that was it.
So what instrument were you playing?
I was a concert pianist. I was a classical pianist.
Wow.
I remember hearing a song when I was 5 years old from my dad. He was playing something on the radio. I picked it out in the piano that we had. We had a little makeshift piano. My dad asked me, how did I learn how to play that? Who taught me? And I said, well, it was on the radio. Of course, he wasn't listening. And I obviously was acutely aware of the notes, and I transformed it into sound in my house. And he said, Louise, my mom, the kid's got talent. And music was always a very natural thing for me. I worked hard at it, but it came easy.
Well,
It was something
it makes me think about this, and I use the comparison all the time to a chiropractic adjustment and the health of the nervous system, and the way that the spine talks to the organ system, and the way the nervous system connects to the immune system. And that if you gave a concert pianist the piano that's out of tune and they go to play the damn thing and it was out of tune, they would immediately know that it's out of tune. They had to retune it. And that's what people come into the chiropractor with, is they're just untuned pianos that they need to have somebody tune them up so they could play beautiful music again.
James, I am convinced that the attuned chiropractor, someone that is connected, a hollow bone, can feel the vibrational frequency of the nerve system that is off, and it's like a chromatic scale on a piano, A sharp, B sharp, C. Now, if you bang a tuning fork at 440 cycles per second, it vibrates at a sound that we call A at a concert grand piano. Look it up, 440 cycles per second. At that vibrational frequency, it emits the sound that we call A. I am convinced if we actually delve into the research, if there is enough technology out there, we can determine the vibrational frequency of an atlas. And when the spine is subluxated, that vibrational frequency is a dissonant resonance or dissonant frequency, and the spine is not harmonically tuned. I am convinced that once the chiropractor, and it might take more than 1 year as a student, it might take many, many years from becoming an embryo to a student, to a teacher, to a master. They might have to evolve to mastership level to build their DNA, their nerve system or their myelin sheath around their body to feel that. But I'm convinced that the master chiropractor is attuned to where their vibrational frequency is off, which thwarts energy. I'm convinced of that.
And you know, I always heard that D.D. Palmer, the guy on my shirt here, the granddad of chiropractic, like chiropractor number one, based chiropractic on tone.
Yeah.
And magnetic healing and frequencies between how the organ systems and the glandular systems talk to the nervous system through the spinal canal.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, he was so cutting edge. He was so far ahead of his time. And to this day, I'm sure what I just said, a second ago, might boggle some people's heads. Like, they never heard it like that. But truly, the nerve system or the 24 movable vertebra on the spine or in the spine vibrate at some sort of harmonic frequency. We just haven't measured it. We haven't figured out how to measure it.
Yes. So I think that there's a lot of really cool tools out there. There's a lot of, EMG scanner things, and there's really cool like motion x-ray stuff going on. But I think that chiropractors, the toolkit of like analysis, there's never been a greater time to understand through technology about what's going on with the tone of the spine and the way that the spine works. And I think that we've come a long ways with technology and how you can integrate that to see what's going on and be objective with people and say, look, it's not just your pain. Like, look, we've adjusted you and we've corrected it. And now look at what this is. This is the next thing.
Yeah. Eventually maybe that happens, but you have to have a very philosophically based chiropractor with the engineering skills, or a person who has the skills of an engineer, something like a BJ Palmer. I mean, people don't realize he invented the precursors to the EEG called the electrical encephaloneuromentimograph. That thing was determined to measure the mental impulse. That's how cutting edge that guy was. Now, if he was still alive, I'm sure he would have figured out how to measure the vibrational frequency possibly of a vertebra that's off a little bit. And if he can balance that out, maybe that's the right frequency. Like we say, 440 vibrations per second on a tuning fork emits that sound called A. It's just a natural law. 440 cycles per second equals A, period. I'm sure there might be some sort of whatever vibrational frequency on a spine, and that's the vibrational frequency that we have to have tone.
I love this, man. But let's get into a little bit deeper. And I know that because I've been talking to you, some of the things that make you unique in this world. You've done mountains, big mountains. You've done body competitions, and I think. But the part that our audience is going to take the most away from is business. You've also done business. Yeah. So let's talk about your uniqueness in the chiropractic world and what you're doing today with chiropractic business modeling.
So, listen, I don't put myself as unique. I just put myself as driven with a chip on my shoulder, and I don't wish it on anybody. Okay. I don't wish this. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I go until 11 o'clock at night, and I'm pretty focused most of the day. I don't wish it on anyone. It's a gift and it's a curse at the same time. People don't know me. I keep myself anonymous because I'm focused on what I have going on, RX Wellness. You mentioned I was climbing mountains back in the 1990s. I peaked a couple of impressive mountains, Mount Hood in Oregon, Rainier in Washington. The goal was to get to Everest, but that never happened. Life took me in a different direction. I was a piano player, accomplished. Then I became a chiropractor, small business guy. I embraced the philosophy. I still do embrace the philosophy. there's no greater philosophy, I believe, than the chiropractic philosophy that we get to live and we get to embrace and get to relish in. But I've taken that jacket off as the mountain climber, and then I was a competitive bodybuilder for 8 years. And that was a whole different world where I lived like a monk, waking up and eating 6 meals a day, 6:30, 12:30, 3:30, 6:30, 9:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, 9:30, 12:30, 3:30, 6:30, 9:30, 4,500 calories of clean eating. And I didn't miss a meal in 8 years. 6 meals a day, 2-a-day workouts. That's all I did. Still playing the role of a small businessman. And then after 8 years of competing at the natural bodybuilding world, I decided to take that jacket off and I embraced the role of an entrepreneur. Okay. And I have a team, so please don't give me the credit for it. It does not go to me. I've had this vision for probably as a student. We had talked about, when you're a chiropractic student, you fantasize of what you want to build. And we all had these, I'm going to have multiple practice. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change the world in chiropractic. We all had these fantasies. And it was so great to be idealistic. I'm very naive and very innocent in a sense. And I'm still a believer of people. And I never forgot about my dream of what I wanted to do, but I just knew I was smart enough to know I didn't have the right team. And my second wife, Phoebe, she was in corporate America. She was a partner in PricewaterhouseCoopers. And it took me a couple of years to convince her to leave her literally a $500,000 a year job. She was an executive at one of the top consulting firms. Now, I'll say this. To ask a chiropractor to build a business is like asking a business person to adjust an atlas. Okay? Business people did not go to school to move an atlas, and chiropractors did not go to school to run a business. What did you take? You took a seminar? You took a semester? Really? Okay, so my wife went to a place in Florida, I forget, for 6 months, where they taught her how to write a damn proposal. Okay, it was took 6 months to have a business proposal. Okay, and then she writes these for, she scaled Mandarin Oriental, she scaled David Yurman, the jeweler, she scaled Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, a lot of Fortune 100 companies where she'd come in with her team and she'd come in and do the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, subject matter experts that they'd have inside the businesses, and she'd take those people, she'd interview them, she'd find out how to run a business. She didn't need to know the business. She just knew how to run a business, and she needed her subject matter experts. So she used me as that subject matter expert. And we went back in the end of 2017. We rebranded. At the time, we had 4 employees, and that's pretty much what I hung out with for the first 20 years. From 4 employees, we went to 70 employees. In about 4.5 years, we went from about $900,000 gross to just about, we're going to do $8 million this year. And we're like literally on the bell curve. We're not here. We're here. We're building our 6th practice right now. That'll be up in about 10 weeks. That's just lock and load.
What advice would you give to somebody that wants to have more practice growth and they've been sitting around for 20 years hanging out with 4 people?
You got to build a business person.
Or better yet, they've been sitting around for 5 years hanging out with 1 person.
Okay. So I'm going to talk to you guys about, because I was relatively successful with my one man. I had myself, I had another associate, I had a front desk and a back desk person. I wasn't, $900,000, which is what we averaged out, wasn't a bad practice. I'm not poo-pooing that at all. In fact, that's quite an accomplishment. This is before the internet. But you have to create a machine. And when I say the machine, you have to create a machine that can drive new patients in. Okay. So my machine was, I created a health fairs company. I lived in an area that had a lot of corporations. And in the area, I had this idea of, if I can create a health fair company that I could be a Trojan horse. I could be just another vendor. No one's going to know I own this business. I'm going to put a director of my healthfairsplus.com, Health Fairs Plus, go onto it, in the role of the marketer or the director of that company. I could just be another vendor along with 15 other vendors, the eye doctor, the hearing aid person, the massage therapist, the this, the that, the jewel, right? So if you could do that 20 to 30 to 40 times a year in corporations that have, obviously they're close by your office, they have good insurance, and of course they have a job, that takes away the objectives of any person that you're going to meet at, let's say, a county fair. County fair is the reason why they don't come in is because they're coming from Alabama. You're in Virginia. Oh, I'm just visiting my sister on a wedding. Well, they're not coming into you. Another person says, well, I've lost my job. Now I'm in between jobs, or I don't have good insurance. I know that because I've tried to go to a chiropractor. I need one, but I don't want to pay out of pocket. These are some of the objectives that you get when you're at a county fair, and you have to go through a lot of people. Now, when you're at a health fair, in 3 hours, I can outdo what I would do, let's say, at an all-weekend fair for 10 hours on Saturday, 10 hours on Sunday. In 3 hours, I could outdo what I would do for 20 hours on an all-weekend thing, time away from my friends and family. Okay.
So let me ask you this. Is there a system that other people can learn how to create this Trojan horse of healthcare for the chiropractic profession in their local communities?
Well, I would say this, honestly. That was a great idea before the insurance industry changed. And it's changed. It's not the same industry as it was. And, if you're going to be, you have to be willing to change. You can't hold on to old ideas because the old idea worked 20 years ago. You have to be willing to change and be a chameleon and always embrace where the future is. Okay. And so, quite frankly, the first thing my wife did, and myself included, but she had this idea was, we created a platform. We decided to not go with, and I'm not taking this away from anybody, but this is what we did because we knew what we wanted to do. So we had the end in mind before we even began on step one. We were with a local website company that works for the chiropractic profession. And we'd see, of course, like 5 or 10 or 15 other chiropractors in our local town using the same company. And James, do you have any kids?
No kids.
I got 4. All right. Now, listen, I can't say I love one more than the other. I got to love them all the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got to say. And that's exactly what your ABC chiropractic website has to say to all of their clients that are working for the 15 clients in that one town. So when you're hiring the same website company in the same town, you can't put another practice ahead of the other practice. You have to equal them out. So now there's not one office that can dominate. What we did was we created our own website. If I have 1,000 horsepower, James, car, if my car's 1,000 horsepower and yours is 100 horsepower, who's going to win?
1,000.
Yeah, every day of the year. So let's say I create my website. That's a $100,000 website that is meant for, let's say, a region, like a whole damn tri-state area. Let's say that website has the architecture that goes miles deep, where the average chiropractic website is based upon $10,000 template that is, like you said, a mile wide but an inch deep. Now, what about that one, which is like 10 miles wide but 10 miles deep? Every single time I go into a new location, we can dominate. So that's the new frontier, I would say. Now, not everyone.
I love that.
It's what she created. Now she did it for $100,000, but she also knew the team that did it for $500,000 from Mandarin Oriental. We basically hired the team that did Mandarin Oriental's website, that nice hotel, and for a fifth of the price. It was worth every penny of it. But we also only had one office. Now, if you're going to have one office, it might not be worth it for you. But now we have 5 going on 6. And at that point, we can scale. It doesn't take a personality like mine who wants to get out every single weekend to do a health fair. You can just get a person who's got great skills, with builds the reputation, and that platform could go into a brand new area, or with the 3 months being the top 3 of the 3-pack in Google.
You've made it to chirohustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle. I love this so much, but it makes me wonder, how do you find your talent now? Because you're scaling. You said you went from 4 people to 70 people. How do you get people to jump on board with you, and where do you find qualified people? Because I know right now most people can't find people to even show up.
Yes. We attracted, number one, we attract the talent. We had 2 or 3 interviews this week alone. And it's very interesting. because of our brand, I think that we represent a lot of people that represent mediocrity. I don't think ask to work for RX Wellness. I just think that those people realize I might not be good enough. And we have people that have decent to great skills that come aboard, okay, that they interview with us. Now, we might go through 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 chiropractors and only hire one. We don't hire everyone. You have to learn that you have to have at least 25, preferably 5,000 adjustments before I even bring you on board, because I've said this before, and students out there who are listening to this, after your first 10 adjustments, you still suck. After your 100th adjustment, you still suck. After 1,000, you're not that good still. At 2,500 adjustments, you become able to move a bone with some sort of professionalism. I like 5,000, but I will take a person who's had 2,500 adjustments if they have spatial orientation of the spine. That's important to me. Because don't forget, I'm going to bring you under RX Wellness. You have to know how to adjust like an artist. This is not a business to me. This is a piece of artistic design that I want to be able to utilize. This is going to sound a little weird, but when people walk in, there's the artistry of chiropractic. That's what gets the person well. It's not about the technique. It's about the skill set of the chiropractor.
And you know, I think that we should retrace a little bit and let people know that chiropractic is based on science, philosophy, and art. Yeah. And I think that what they're losing today is even in the schools, as you said, there's a difference between the artistic of being an adjuster and just moving a bone. And you said it's different than just technique. And, you know, you get people, you know, I think I'm going to implement a new question into my my interviews going forward is, what's your favorite technique or style to get adjusted by personally? But I think that when I'm hearing what you're saying is that the person has to have competency in their artistic ability of technique
to deliver the chiropractic adjustment. That's my job is. I bring them on in. My wife, she'll talk to the chiropractor to see their soft skills. How do they handle themselves on the phone? Are they a person that's, listen, if they're a little off, you know, that might not work for our facility, right? Our facilities. Then we'll fly them in and we'll interview them. We'll have them take a day in the life of an employee. So we'll have them run a shift. And I'll ask the people that get adjusted, our patients, practice members. So what'd you think? Scale of 1 to 10. Give me a number. I don't want to hear anything else, but I want to know a number. And then they can expand on what they're thinking. But if they're giving me a 5 or 6, they're not getting hired. If they're giving me 8s and above, that's my guy. That's my person I want to have part of RX Wellness.
So your job is harvesting chiropractic artists.
My job is finding talent or people with spatial orientation of the spine and then making them great. And I'm not going to make them great in just a chiropractor as a chiropractor. If they're that good, I'm going to build a practice around them. I'm going to teach them all. I'm going to teach them everything I know. I'm going to teach them day ones. I'm going to teach them day twos. I'm going to teach them not just how to be a great chiropractor. I'm going to teach them how to be successful in business, because that's what I'm good at. I've managed to do that in a small little office without an x-ray, in not a great location, in horrible parking. And I've morphed myself into another office with a great location, with a beautiful design, with x-rays, digital x-rays, and everything. When you first walk into my office, and anyone out there can go onto my website. It's rxwellness.com, rxwellness.com. You can take a look at my offices, and hopefully you guys can appreciate the work and the labor that we put into this, because my purpose was never to make $1 million. My purpose in chiropractic was always to bring respectability and professionalism to the public of what we do. It was never about me. It was always that I love this profession so much that I wanted people to walk in my office and say, wow, I thought chiropractors, were like this, but wow, I respect this profession. That's what it was always about. It was always about bringing respect to the profession that I fell in love with the moment I met Dr. Sid Williams at Life University back in 1991.
Do you want to tell that story? What was it like meeting Sid for your first time?
Well, I never met him personally, but I saw him millions of times. But the first time we had to go to the school assembly, and I'll be honest, I drank his Kool-Aid. He was a polarizing figure. Either you loved him or you didn't love him. Either you loved him and thought he was a second coming to BJ Palmer, or you thought he was crazy and a crackpot and were viscerally against him. Thought he was a maniac and ego. I drank his Kool-Aid. I love Dr. Sid. And he got the respect. He built the largest chiropractic college in the world within 20 years. But the first time I met him, I'll be honest, this is my thoughts. I heard him for a whole hour babbling about chiropractic. I remember, you want to do colonics, go to National. And he said that. Like, I didn't even understand what straight chiropractic was and what mixer chiropractic. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, other than, true story, when I decided to go be a chiropractor when I was in undergraduate school as a music major. I'm going to tell you the story. I remember the girl's name. It was in my speech class, and I said, Iris, I know what I want to do. I want to go be a chiropractic student. And she said, oh my God, my brother just went down to the school in Georgia, and he's there. He just enrolled, and there's this lunatic chiropractor who built this school, and he has like 40 practices, and he's building the largest chiropractic college in the world. And whatever she said, I said, James, I said, I want to meet that guy. I didn't even know what life was. I didn't ever tour the campus. I took my U-Haul with my Delta 88 Oldsmobile that was like 12 or 13 years old, had over 100,000 miles. My grandmother gave it to me. I went down with my dad. We drove down there. He unpacked me. He left. There I was. Never saw the campus. And listen, I'm a Jew from New York. Can you imagine a Jew from New York driving down fast Virginia, and the accents are already south? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even understand these people. How am I going to understand another 1,000 miles south? I'm going down. I'm seeing Stone Mountain. They got the Confederate flag. I'm a Jew. My dad's like, how are you going to know if you're amongst the KKK? I'm going to say, Baruch Atah Adonai. Your turn. You're Jewish. You're going to know the next 3 words. So that was so I'm listening to Sid Williams in his Southern drawl, and I swear I said to myself, I don't know what the hell this guy just said, but I'm sure happy he's on my team. That's all I remember. I'm sure happy he's on my team. And, Sid, I get emotional about him because he's probably the reason why I'm successful. Sid Williams. I never saw a person that was larger than life, that cared about chiropractic than he did. He never stopped caring about the profession. He was a leader in our profession. And those that were around him got to see the charisma, the drive that he had, and the love of the profession. And I'm convinced that if I didn't meet Dr. Sid Williams, I would be where I'm at. That's the truth.
I have a visceral effect to your emotion. And it's very seldom that I'm doing a show that I actually get stopped in my tracks and I feel someone else's emotional pull for something. But I do have to ask you, what was it like? Because I think I told you this the first time that we chatted for like 45 minutes. I was like, man, I went out and did 600 spinal screenings in 36 months, scheduled in over 3,000 people. And I would drop the keys.
Right.
I would tell people, I don't care if you believe in chiropractic. I was like, chiropractic it's like gravity. It works whether you believe it or not. I was like, do you know what a belief system is? I was like, Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. Any more questions? And then I'd get my keys out and I'd drop them to the ground.
Now, I never did that in the spinals. I did a lot of spinal screenings, but I never dropped the keys. I would have been like, that's another story.
So. But that's just like the heart and soul of when you believe in something so much. I was just on a previous interview today, and I saw Dr. Eric Plasker speak at New Beginnings, and I love this story just because it matters to me. And he was like, I want you to everybody to stand up right now and tell me if you had one like battle cry for chiropractic, what would it be? And everybody was just talking over each other. It was a room full of people, chiropractors up in New Jersey. And I said from the top of my voice, I will die on this hill. I'll die on this hill. I'll die on this hill. And I kept on saying that over and over. But I never met Sid. I never met these luminaries like Fred Barge. I never met Reggie Gold. I never met these people that have this like lineage of power. But I'll tell you who started my career. It was a guy named Matt Walker, but he was a part of Palmer Rugby. And this guy named Fred Schofield is the one that really hit me with the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And he was the one that really taught me what chiropractic philosophy was about. So when I hear your story about Sid and how he inspired this purpose in you, Fred Schofield did the same thing for me.
Wonderful. Yeah. I never got a chance to meet Fred Schofield. I know that in the 1990s, he had a powerful practice management consulting group. I knew that. You mentioned Eric Plasker, and Eric was the guy that I would say took me from here to here. He was my only consultant. He was my only coach, and he did wonders for a guy that really didn't know how to run a business. And I didn't. I had the passion for chiropractic. I was an upper cervical only knee chest fanatic. And for those that think it's not beneficial to have technique wars, I disagree. Respectfully disagree. I loved the technique wars because if you fought for your technique, it meant that you had passion and you wanted to get better at your technique. So, out of love, I look back, oh God, I love those days. I was a guy that walked around with my neurokilometer, my dual probe instrument, right? The Kale thermoscope. And it was the gondroids, right? They called us the Kale droids or the upper cervical boys, and we called them the gondroids. And we had this holier than thou that our technique was better. You know what, James? I wish that these chiropractors that are coming out of school had the passion that we had when it came down to learning the technique. They loved the technique. They were obsessed with their technique. They went to Mount Horeb. We went to Spartanburg, South Carolina every single month. They took the elders out, the 80-year-old chiropractor that had been in the field, that had been in the jail. You mentioned Reggie. You mentioned Fred Barge, Arnold Bernier. I met these guys. I had Arnold sleep in my house. Joe Accurso, that's another one. Some of these people, Ian Grossum, Jimmy, some of these people, the world in chiropractic doesn't even know about. But boy, I was blessed because they had direct lineage, like you said, to BJ. Mm-hmm. And, we're losing, I think, and people will say, well, what about you, Phil? I don't think that was anointed to carry it down to the next generation. I know what I'm doing, but I plan on when this entrepreneurial jacket is taken off, and it will be taken off, my goal within 5 or so years. My goal is to become a professor at a university that'll have me because God did not bless me with what I have, all the stuff, this material stuff that I'm not even really, it's nice, but to not give it to the next generation, to not pass it down to the next generation. And I'll probably be that guy that either they're going to say, I love Dr. Phil or Dr. Phil's crazy. One of the two. I'm going to face them both. I'm not going to fight for the limitations of the people that think I'm crazy because I am. But I'm going to embrace the people that say they want to learn more about it and more for what I can give them. Because that's all I'm going to do is pass the baton down to the next generation because, damn it, we need people like myself that are still inspired, that had the lineage from Sid to BJ or Reggie Gold to BJ to pass it down to the next. We're losing that, and I know it.
Well, I really admire your story. We're coming to the edge of our interview today. Your episode 412. If people want to know more about you, where can we send them to? Is that rxwellness.com?
Yeah, that's my website. That's what we do. That's the website. I don't consult. I don't teach. I'm not for hire. Please don't ask. It happens sometimes. I go on, which is one of the reasons why I don't do podcasts. I don't have anything to sell other than the passion for chiropractic. And you can get that at many of these, like you said, New Beginnings. You can get that at DE or Life Source or Parker Chiropractic. There's a lot of great seminars out there which you guys can get lit up to. I would recommend any chiropractors that are here feeling some of what I got. If you want some of this, go to the seminars. Go to the seminars and tap yourself in Kairos training culture. Those are the most radical badasses that are going to teach you how to adjust a bone with artistry. And some of these students, some of these doctors can't move a bone like some of these students that come out. And you know what I'm talking about, James. You know it. I mentioned KTC and you're like smiling, like, yeah, I know. Of course,
know those boys.
Those guys, Brett Jones, man. Gosh, thank goodness for this guy. He's teaching the chiropractors who have not learned to adjust with expedience for whatever reasons. Maybe the chiropractor student didn't see how important it was that 4 years goes by fast, or COVID happened and you shut down for 2 years and you couldn't have enough practice. But there's some great technique seminars, Kairos training cultures, that in the middle of the technique that they're teaching, and it's not technique specific, it's how to feel a spine. They're also throwing in philosophy of chiropractic, and you're going to get some chiropractic passion. These are the things that the student and the doctor have to tap into. It's important. It's important because you can't be on an island and maintain this enthusiasm and this love and this passion by yourself. You have to get tapped into the profession.
Well, I love the enthusiasm, and I love Brett Jones, and I love his whole team at Kairos. And I think that there's a lot of integrity there, and they train people through their systems how to have certainty in what they do. So it's like postdoctorate work where you go in and you become a very intelligent human and become a doctor. But this teaches you how to actually apply what you actually studied for the 4 years that you were studying under. So lots of great information here. Dr. Phil, I'd like to have you on for a follow-up interview here in the near future.
Yeah, we could talk deep, and we didn't talk deep business. I think we were going to go there, but it didn't happen. That's fine. We could go deep in business. I can give you some advanced training skills on how to grow a practice to well into the 7 figures, near 8 figures. I think we're over $10 million in about 2 years. It's not difficult. It's a system. It's not run on enthusiasm or energy. It's not meditation every single day. It's a system. It's a platform. And if you understand how it works, it's not hard to do it. Anybody could do what I do if you just did what I did. That's it.
With that being said, this is 412 Chiro Hustle. Really appreciate you making time for me, Dr. Phil. It's been an honor to have you on. I know, like I said at the intro, I've tracked you down for the past 8 months. You finally said yes. And I think that our audience is going to benefit from this episode greatly. So I'll reach out to you after this and hopefully get you on for a follow-up interview. We'll go deep dive on business. Is that cool?
It's been an honor, my friend. It's been an honor.
All right. Well, you guys, I close out by telling you guys you're just one story away. Keep hustling. And thank you, Dr. Phil, and I'll be in touch with you, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.